If you hear this creature singing in Alaska, run away. These are Sadonaliashas, which when translated from Denaina, means the people stealing monster. They live in the Kenai Peninsula, which is part of the Alaskan Triangle, where over 20,000 people have mysteriously gone missing. These are 10-foot tall creatures, covered in dark fur, and have beaks up to a foot long. The winters here are harsh, so to survive, they hibernate, but that means they need to eat extra during the summer months. They mimic animal noises, or more commonly sing bird songs to lure nearby humans closer to them. But the closer they get, the more off-key the songs will start to sound. This is your only warning sign you are about to have an encounter with them. If you do not choose to run away, they will get more and more off-key, and you will be more drawn to them, until they are standing right in front of you. They will grab you, and pull you high into the treetops, and you will never be seen again.
The killer that inspired hundreds of horror movies. Buffalo Bill from Silence of the Lambs, Norman Bates from Psycho, Leatherface from Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and many more were all inspired by this freak, Ed Gein. Disclaimer, this is not the video that you're going to want to be eating while watching. Ed Gein was from the tiny town of Plainsfield, Wisconsin. His father, George, was an abusive alcoholic, and his mother, Augusta, hated her husband. Well, actually, she kind of hated everybody. She was a very religious woman with a strict moral code. She thought the entire world was evil and sinful, but especially women. She believed that all women were promiscuous S-workers who were instruments of the devil, except herself, of course. She thought that she was the only pure woman in the entire world. And she instilled all of these beliefs on her two sons, Henry and Ed. Augusta was like the blueprint for toxic boy moms. She wanted her sons to stay with her forever, be her little mama's boys, have no friends, and definitely no girlfriends. And it worked because Ed was obsessed with his mother, even calling her the one true love of his life. And when his father passed away in 1940, him and his mom got even closer. But Ed's brother, Henry, did not feel the same way about his mother that his younger brother did. He wanted to grow up, move out, have friends, have a wife. And he began to actually talk badly about their mother to Ed, which Ed did not like at all. And very soon after this, Ed's brother mysteriously passed away in a suspicious fire. There was a lot of shady details, and Ed was the last person to be seen with his brother. It was not ruled foul play in 1944, and to this day it's still speculated if he killed his brother, if he did not kill his brother. I definitely think he did. I think that his brother was his first victim. And only a year later, Ed's mother also passed away, and then everything changed. This was absolutely devastated for the now 39-year-old Ed. He kept his mother's bedroom in his house in pristine condition while allowing the rest of the house to get filthy and disgusting. Ed lived in this very small town where everyone knew each other and everyone thought that Ed was kind of a weirdo. He definitely gave people, especially women, the creeps, but he especially creeped out the local tavern owner, a woman named Mary Hogan. Allegedly, this lady, Mary, was similar to Ed's mother in both attitude and physical appearance. Ed would go to her tavern almost every single day to just sit there and stare at her until she went missing. Mary was actually one of 5 people to disappear in a handful of years from this very small town. Considering that the population of the town was less than 700 people, it's kind of weird. That's a lot of people to be disappearing. And in November of 1957, a 6th person would disappear. She was the owner of the local hardware store, this woman named Bernice Warden. Luckily, they were actually able to determine who her last customer was at the hardware store before she disappeared, and you guessed it, it was Ed. So officers want to question Ed, see if he saw anything, see if he knows anything. So they go to his property, which is now referred to as Ed Gein's House of Horrors. Officers are walking through Ed's property trying to find him. He might not be there, but they're walking through, and then one of the officers feels something hit his shoulder. So he looks up, and there, hanging from the ceiling, upside down by her feet, was Bernice. And this was a gruesome sight. She was missing her head and also all of her insides. Immediately, all of the officers went outside to throw up and call backup. Also inside of Ed's house was a lot of stuff that he had made out of skin and not from an animal. He made furniture like chairs and lampshades. He made clothing like shirts, leggings, corsets, gloves, all made from human skin. There was also a mask made out of a face, and there was also a belt completely made out of a specific female body part. Also, an entire wall in his house that he had lined with 9 female faces that he put up as decoration. They also found the face of the missing tavern owner, Mary, inside of a plastic bag. And you can find photos of all of the things and more that I just told you about online. I'm not your mom. I'm not going to tell you what to do, what not to look up. I'm just going to tell you, remember that you can never unsee something. So you're probably thinking that this man is obviously a serial killer and one of the most disturbing, terrifying of them all. Technically, he's not. Ed only ever confessed to unaliving Mary and Bernice, and all of the other bodies in his house he got from robbing graves. He claims in the 12 years since his mother had passed away, he could not believe that she was gone. He thought that she was still alive, so he began finding graves of women that were around the same age or kind of looked like his mom that had recently passed away, so he could use their bodies to make a full skin suit out of them. And apparently he would even go out at night in this suit so he could feel like his mom walking around in the moonlight. And then he would dance in this skin suit. Could you imagine like going out to walk your dog and seeing that? It's nightmare fuel. He claims that he only began to unalive people so that he could get the freshest material for the things that he was making. It's so gross, I'm going to be sick. Ed Gein spent the rest of his life in a psychiatric hospital before passing away in 1984. Ed went on to inspire like a majority of like the classic horror movies, and then those movies inspired the next generation of horror movies and so on and so forth. So if you're a fan of horror movies and like the horror movie genre, chances are that your favorite movies only exists because of this guy, Ed Gein. If you watched to the end of this video, thank you so much, because I know this was a rough one to get through. I'm right there with you. Recently, I asked you guys, because you guys are always asking me to cover some of the more like notorious, well-known killers throughout history, because I tend to try and like cover a lot of cases that people don't really know. So that's how I ended up covering this case today. If there's a case that you want to see me cover, let me know in the comments. I will see you guys tomorrow. I love you guys so, so much.
Devastating, gut-wrenching films that scarred me forever. I promise you that these will affect you and leave a stain on your soul. Uncomfortable, unflinching, and absolutely jarring. I'm Chuck. I'd love to be your movie guy. Hit the like button, give me a follow, and these are 5 devastating movies that scarred me forever. 0 Day is one of the most unflinching, heartbreaking, and devastating films I've ever seen about 2 kids in a school. You get the drift. The hyper-realistic nature of the way that this is shot will leave you breathless and you won't be able to stop thinking about it. This one fucks me up. Mean Creek is about a kid named Sam that is beaten up by a bully and his older brother wants to exact revenge. This is a coming-of-age story. It's kids being left to their own devices, and this one hits hard and left a stain on me because I am a parent. We Need to Talk About Kevin is a riveting and powerful film starring Tilda Swinton and John C. Reilly about a woman that had a troubled pregnancy and couldn't bond with her son, and her son just seems a bit odd and there's something about him. This one hits fucking hard. Nil by Mouth is the one and only film ever directed by Gary Oldman, starring Ray Winstone in a powerful performance about a man who is addicted to rage and alcohol in a family and the bonds and how it is torn apart. Nil by Mouth is going to punch you in the gut, and it hits very hard. Mass is a very powerful film about 2 sets of parents after the aftermath of an incident at a school. One set of parents is from the victim and one set of parents is from the perpetrator, and they sit down to have a conversation. There haven't been many films in life that have moved me the way that Mass did. It's devastating, it's powerful, and it's important. Let me know in the comments if you've seen any of these films, because these are 5 devastating movies that scarred me forever. I'm Chuck. I'd love to be your movie guy. Hit that like button. Give me a follow.
Creepy facts that will disturb you. There might be a haunted Russian radio station. UVB-76 is a low-frequency radio station that's been broadcasting since 1982. No one knows where the broadcast is originating. It's mostly just a buzzing noise with the occasional Russian voice transmission. Scaphism was an ancient form of execution where you'd cover someone with honey, stick them in a hollow log, and allow insects to eat them alive. Babies grow mustaches in the womb that then spread to cover their entire body in hair called lanugo. The body hair keeps them warm and helps regulate body temperature. Ladybugs are known to eat their own larvae to ensure the survival of other larvae. Pigs can eat an entire human body, mostly because they'll just eat anything. There's such a thing as homicidal sleepwalking. It's also called homicidal somnambulism or sleepwalking murder.
This is the perfect movie to start my 2024 spoiler series, so let's spoil trap. Josh Hartnett plays Cooper, who takes his daughter to a Lady Raven concert as a reward for getting good grades, and then when they get to the concert, Cooper realizes there is a weird amount of police and FBI security there. In the midst of panic, Cooper goes to the bathroom to check a security camera that he has on his phone, and we see this guy Spencer who is all chained up, revealing that Cooper is in fact the guy that they're looking for. While exiting the bathroom, Cooper is still in panic, and he sees this vision of this old lady standing next to him at the sink, who seems like he knows who this person is, but we, the audience, are unsure of who she is at this time. When Cooper and his daughter go to buy merch, Cooper pulls his worker Jamie aside and asks what the deal is with all the police, and he tells Cooper the police were tipped off that the local serial unaliver who goes by the name The Butcher is going to be there at the concert tonight, and the whole thing is a trap, and the only way out without security is backstage. He keeps thinking of ways to try to get out of the venue, and then Cooper goes back to the merch guy Jamie to pick up a shirt that was promised for him, and Jamie takes him through this like employee area to grab extra merch, and during this exchange, Cooper steals Jamie's ID badge, which gets him access to like different places in the venue. So the FBI are doing this like debriefing in the employee area on The Butcher, and while they're distracted, Cooper steals a police radio from them. Cooper goes back to the concert where he keeps leaving his teenage daughter all alone to go and be psychotic, but he puts in the radio piece to listen to what the police are saying, and we hear the head profiler talking about how certain suspected crowd members aren't The Butcher because at this point they're just pulling people from the crowd who are like fitting The Butcher's stature. And she goes on to say how The Butcher knows that they are closing in on him but won't act all panicked because of his like calm and cool demeanor, but is looking for a way out. So he puts glass bottles in the fryer so that they blow up, and then it'll cause like a freak accident but also panic and distraction. But then this plan fails because he runs into the police on the roof, but he's able to like play it off cool that he's a worker on break. And then when he returns down from the roof, he sees the girl who got injured from the fryer, but we see the same vision of this old lady, and she's just like standing there staring at Cooper. So he goes back to the concert with his daughter, and at this point he's like full blown internally panicking and like he feels trapped, but his daughter says like, I hope I get picked to be Dreamer Girl so that she can go on stage, and Dreamer Girls even get to go backstage, and Cooper is like, oh, this is a great idea. So he casually walks up to M. Night, who plays Lady Raven's uncle / crew member, and lies to him. Says that his daughter is fighting leukemia and she's just happy to attend this concert, and that pulls at his heartstrings. So then the crew members decide that she could be Dreamer Girl for the night. So she goes up on stage and performs with Lady Raven, and they go backstage to say bye to Lady Raven. Cooper hears the profiler say they haven't caught the Butcher yet, but they are going to stop every single male that's in attendance and question them, so he will be caught for sure by the end of the night. And while Cooper is looking for like the door to leave, he realizes that there are police everywhere around the exit, so there's literally no way out of there. So then Lady Raven goes to say goodbye to them, and this is when he pulls her aside to like ask a question about his daughter's like diagnosis. And then so they're alone in this room, and this is when he pulls up Spencer on his phone, and he's like, you guys got me. So then he's like, what you're gonna do is help me get out of here, otherwise I'm gonna push this little button that releases carbon dioxide, and then his death is gonna be your fault. So she agrees. They get past security, they go into the limo, and then Cooper's like, you can just drop us off on the corner, and she's like, no, I want to go to your house. And this is where we assume that like she's probably gonna try to see if Spencer is there locked up at the house. They get to the house and the whole family is there, and then Lady Raven decides that she's gonna stay for dinner, and then they discuss the Butcher, and she reveals that the FBI knew that the Butcher was going to be at the concert because the Butcher uses all these abandoned homes to hide like his victims and everything. And in one of the homes, they found a receipt for the Lady Raven concert tickets, and she also reveals that the FBI profiled all these accurate things that we already know about Cooper, and one of them being that he has a horrible relationship with his mother, who may have been the first person to sense that Cooper was like a little different, which is this is why we're getting these old lady visions. Before Lady Raven leaves, she asks if she can play a song on the piano, and and Cooper's like taking a picture, and then she snatches the phone out of his hands and she rushes to the bathroom. And this is where Cooper loses her and starts banging on the door, and the whole family is like, who the heck is this person? Like, what is going on right now? And Lady Raven gets on the little security camera and she's talking to Spencer, and Spencer's like telling her details about where he's at. So then Lady Raven gets on her social media live and she's like, guys, can you help me find this location? And lo and behold, a fan like finds the location and Spencer is safe. But Cooper then bursts into the bathroom door and escorts Lady Raven out to like his car, and they're trying to get out of the house while like his family's like locked upstairs. But then when the garage door opens, his family's actually standing right there in front of his car, and then we see the police driving up. Then Lady Raven and our driver take off, and then Cooper escaped through the back house. We learn this because the police radio says it. And then we switch back to Lady Raven, and then we learn like, oh my God, that's actually not her driver. That was Cooper, who was able to escape and then dress up as SWAT. So then he goes into the back of the limo and then he handcuffs Lady Raven, but she's able to like move her hand to roll down the window and she's screaming for help. So then all these people in this crowded block like end up blocking Cooper's car so he can't drive away. Police come up and they're like drawing their guns to the car and they start shooting inside the window, and we're like, oh, Cooper's dead. But then they go to the driver's seat and it's actually nothing. He was able to escape again. And then we flash back to Cooper's wife, Rachel, who is back at home, but the kids are staying with someone else. She's making tea and Cooper is there at the table and he startles her. He realizes it was her the whole time, the person who tipped the FBI off, because like who else would have known? And Rachel reveals at first she thought it was an affair because he was like out at all hours of the night, just like acting really weird. But then he started to smell like cleaning chemical fluids, like the ones that you smell at hospitals. And then one day Cooper lied so convincingly to a neighbor without batting an eye, and then it like ended up kind of scaring her. So then she started putting all the pieces together, and she was the one that left the receipt for the Lady Raven tickets. So Cooper says yes to end them both, but then she suggests like, why don't we finish these last two pieces of pie for our daughter's little celebration? He agrees, and when he finishes the pie, he realizes that she had crushed up these pills in it. So he gets all delirious, and then in his delirium, he sees his mom talking to him. He thought like he was just pretending this whole time. He thought this was just like not really his personality, and she's like, it's okay, it's coming to an end. I just want to see your face one more time. So then he steps forward in his like delirium, and the vision ends, and it's the police, and they tase him. Cooper is cuffed and then escorted outside, but before he gets into the police van, he picks up his daughter's bike and like puts it upright on the kickstand just as like a goodbye. He gets into the back of the van. The family goes into the house. They're all safe and sound, but then it pans to Cooper in the back of the van. He slips out the little spoke from his daughter's bike, undoes the handcuffs, and he's maniacally laughing into the camera, and the movie ends.
They say that demons and spirits, they can only attack you, or they can only have access to you when you sin.
Okay.
So check this video out.
Whoa, when you sin.
This is footage of outside someone's garage. There's a guy planning to rob this car.
Yeah.
And in the back, you see almost like a spirit just waiting around. It's like a semi-transparent like shadow.
Okay.
It's just waiting around. But the moment the guy goes to steal the car,
Yeah.
look what happens.
Let me see.
Look,
Let me see it. Go like this.
you see?
Yeah, just like this. He gets in the car.
Yeah, so he's getting in the car, and then look at the shadow. Look at the spirit. People in the comments are saying it's a demon, and this is how demons have access to people. Look. So the moment he runs and grabs something from the car,
Oh, he runs with him?
it runs with him.
Okay, what does that mean?
But it's not a shadow, because if it was a shadow, look, because you could say, oh, that's just a shadow of him moving, right? But it was moving on its own. It's separate from him. You saw? It's in that position, and then the guy walks away, and then the shadow moves.
Oh, so it only follows you if you see. Yeah, that makes sense. He stole something from the car and then thing.
Because
Damn.
what I heard is, pretty much, if you follow, you think about it, right? Spiritual rules, right? We're literally given the 10 Commandments, what you're supposed to do.
This movie was so much gorier and graphic than I ever expected it to be. The Well is about this art restorer played by Lauren Lavera, who of course is Sienna from the Terrifier movies. And she is hired to restore this painting in this like beautiful mansion villa in Italy. So she goes there and she starts restoring this painting, and there's some really fucking strange images on it, and weird shit starts happening all around her. Simultaneously, we see this group that she had met earlier be kidnapped and held hostage. And you're not really sure how the two stories are going to relate or connect until like you get it. My absolute favorite thing about this movie was the creature design. It was gnarly as fuck. Like, I don't really want to show this guy too much, but he reminded me of the crawlers from The Descent, but like much bloodier. Also, I'm a sucker for gore personally. I know that's not for everybody, but if it's for you, this movie is the one. There are scenes in this movie, and it kind of almost gives me Terrifier vibes in that the scene just goes on for so long. You're like, when is this possibly going to fucking end? There's one scene in particular that's almost like, I don't entirely want to compare it to the bedroom scene in Terrifier 2 because nothing's nearly as close to that. But there is a scene in this that is kind of reminiscent to me in terms of like, you're watching it and you're like, when is this going to end? Like, when is he just going to leave her alone? So if you're looking for your gory and Lauren Lavera fix before Terrifier comes out in October, you got to check this out. I will say, this movie honestly had me in a fucking chokehold until the last 15 minutes. Unfortunately, I think the ending got really like corny and cheesy and the dialogue was just a bit silly. But it was so good up until then, and honestly, had the ending been better, I probably would have given this movie like a 9 out of 10, but for me, it's like about a 6.5 or a 7 out of 10. And if you want to check it out, it's available to rent right now on Apple TV.
This woman is every parent's worst nightmare. This is the case of the babysitter from hell. It was February 1980 and the Johnson family needed a babysitter. They had a 2-year-old called Cassidy and set about looking for someone to take care of her. They'd previously used a woman called Christine Falling before, so reached out for her again to babysit. Now on the night in question, when the Johnsons got home, Christine told them some terrible news. Cassidy had become unwell and fallen out of her cot. They rushed the child to hospital, but unfortunately Cassidy would tragically pass away. Her cause of death was ruled as encephalitis or brain inflammation. Now, 2 doctors had opposing opinions on the death. One said that they felt that it was a death of natural causes, but the second doctor passed on their suspicions to police. Police did interview Christine, but they found no evidence of foul play, so she was released. She ended up moving to Florida just weeks later. In May 1980, in Lakeland, Florida, emergency services received a call. A 4-year-old boy had stopped breathing. Tragically, paramedics were unable to save little Jeffrey Davis, who was being babysat by Christine. The death was listed as a result of a viral infection. 3 days later, 2-year-old Joseph Spring, the cousin of deceased little Jeffrey, was in need of a babysitter. His parents needed someone to look after him while they attended Jeffrey's funeral. In a shocking turn of events, Joseph passed away that day as a result of the same viral infection. The year after this, Christine moved to Perry. She ended up getting a job as a housekeeper for 77-year-old William Swindle. Now, on her first day on the job, she told emergency services that she found him collapsed and unresponsive on the kitchen floor. He was pronounced dead in hospital and an autopsy wasn't done. He was just believed to have simply died from a heart attack. By this point, Christine had experienced an awful lot of death in her various employments. A few weeks later, she ended up going to a vaccination appointment with her stepsister. Her stepsister's little girl was due to go and get her jabs. The appointment went absolutely fine, but then on the way back, they stopped at the shops to get some nappies, and Christine actually offered to stay in the car to watch the child while her stepsister hopped out. Shockingly, when she returned to the car, the little girl had stopped breathing. She was pronounced dead at the hospital and the death was thought to be a reaction to the vaccines. In June 1982, Christine was once again babysitting. This time it was for 9-week-old Travis Cook. As with most of the children in her care, Travis suddenly experienced respiratory distress. He ended up spending a week in hospital, but luckily survived and came home. However, Travis's parents, tragically completely unaware of Christine's role in their son's illness, asked Christine to babysit once again. When the parents returned home, this time, according to Christine, Travis had suddenly died. However, luckily an autopsy was done and showed that Travis died from suffocation. Immediately, Christine was arrested and began to admit to her crimes. Christine's upbringing was thought to be unstable. She was epileptic, she suffered from learning disabilities and also suffered with seizures. She would display fits of anger and, trigger warning here, relating to animals. She had a fascination with torturing cats. She was apparently subjected to physical and abuse growing up. It's reported that while growing up she displayed symptoms of Munchausen syndrome, where someone will fake their own illnesses essentially. She claimed that she learned how to suffocate via the TV and claimed to have heard voices telling her to kill. In 1982, she got 2 life sentences. She later admitted to killing William Swindle too and was denied parole, and as far as I can see, she remains behind bars.
In a hospital room in the emergency department, there's a college student just laying on the hospital bed, staring up at the ceiling. She doesn't have her shoes on. She's got her hands on her face. She looks very stressed. Someone is in the room with her recording her. That's how we know this. She's rubbing her face. I'm gonna have such a long day tomorrow. Oh my God. I'm not going to answer anyone's Snapchats. I'm not going to answer anyone's questions. The person recording her does not respond to her, does not even try to comfort her or anything, just records her in silence. She slowly turns her head over to look at the cameraman briefly while she's laying there. Well, you're too quiet. I'm gonna start singing now because I hate the quiet. He still doesn't respond. Not much of a response. So she just starts singing, laying there flat on her back on the hospital bed. I mean, clearly she's not that injured. She's singing, moving her arms around, doing the finger guns. Eventually, she needs to get up and put more effort into this performance. She sits up in her hospital bed, takes off her socks, sits crisscross applesauce, and starts singing. She's cupping her face, she's flipping her hair, she's singing Intentions by Justin Bieber. The lyrics go, picture perfect, you don't need no filter, gorgeous, make him drop dead, you're a killer, shower you with all my attention, yeah, these are my only intentions.
Make sure that you don't mention you have my only intentions. Shut up, you know that's missing you.
She's like whipping her head around. She's staring straight at the person quietly filming her. Oh yeah, you never answered me about my car. I have school tomorrow. How do I get my car here tomorrow? A very low man's voice is heard behind the camera.
Well, your car is totaled. It's what? Your car is totaled. Totaled, wrecked.
Okay, so how do I get to school tomorrow? You don't. So I don't go to school tomorrow? Is that what you're telling me? No ma'am, you want me to be honest with you? You're going to jail. You don't have a bond. You killed 2 people tonight. That's what's going on. So yeah, no, you're not going to school tomorrow. That man filming is a police officer. This is the case of Stephanie Malgoza, the college student who killed 2 people and proceeded to complain the whole time of how this could happen to her. She would ask about emailing her professor and sing songs at the crime scene.
Imagine you're critically ill in the hospital and your husband buys an AI robot to help around the house. However, that robot looks like this. That's an instant divorce, right? Subservience is the new Megan Fox thriller where she is the AI robot that will take care of the home and the family while mum is in hospital. Thankfully she's a robot, so surely she can't fall in love with the husband. That means if she wants to be with him, she's going to have to remove his family from the equation. I'll be honest, I went into this one with pretty low expectations, even though I enjoyed the last film this director did with Megan, which was Till Death. Megan Fox is sort of perfectly cast here as a lifelike robot, and I'd say she does a really good job. Madeline Zima also does a great job as the sick mum. However, the lead actor in this, who you may recognise from the gaslighting movies 365, at least he's very handsome. The plot feels kinda reminiscent to the game Detroit Become Human, which is a really fun game. I honestly recommend checking that out. The movie, however, it's totally fine. It's decent, it's not awful. And if you want to see Megan Fox as a horned up robot that also kicks some ass, then I think this movie's for you.
Honestly, was not expecting this movie to be as grotesque as it was. Hello and welcome back to part 132 of my series, watching every horror movie of 2024. Today's movie is The Well, which released on Apple TV September 3rd. The Well is about an art restorer played by Terrifier's Lauren Lavera, and she's tasked with traveling to a small Italian town to restore this painting that's been ruined in a fire, but little does she know that it is attached to an ancient curse. If you like gore and you like grotesque, then I think you'll enjoy this one for the most part. The first 2/3 of the movie were engaging. I was intrigued by this obviously weird family that the girl is staying with, and then we're getting these glimpses of this scary huge monster person and this well, and you're like, okay, well, what's going on here and how do these two connect? The movie has one of my favorite feels to it, where it's just this spooky dark academia setting, and we also have these really good creature designs as we're ramping up to the 3rd act. But this is unfortunately where the story falls flat. The last 15 minutes are a bit rough to get through because the writing and dialogue start to feel a little cheesy, and they wrap up the storyline in just a few quick sentences that they say, rather than feeling like it was thoughtfully unraveled. But I'm not mad I watched it because it has some really good parts to it. I loved Lauren Lavera in it, but it's probably just a one-time watch for me. Overall, I gave The Well a 6 out of 10. If you've seen it, let me know what your thoughts are in the comments. I'm curious about this one.
What if you had your feet under the blanket and something still snatched you? Because that's what happened to one of my followers. Way back in the 90s, when there were only like 4 channels, at midnight every night, the national anthem would play and then your TV would go to static. She said she'd just moved into this house with her parents. She was 15 and it was a school night. She had a really strict dad that made her go to bed every night at 9 o'clock, so she was in bed, fast asleep, when all of a sudden she hears the Star Spangled Banner start to play loudly. She frantically starts looking for the remote because she doesn't want her dad to think that she's not in bed like she was supposed to be. So she's sitting on her bed with her feet under her covers, frantically feeling around trying to find the remote, when all of a sudden, as soon as the song finishes and it goes to she feels 2 rough, gritty hands grab around her ankles and snatch her to the end of a bed. Jerked her with such force that she fell backwards and it drug her down the bed, and then the blanket and her got to the end, but she had one of these beds like this, and she said that her blanket and then like her hips couldn't fit through and it let go. Immediately after, her dad walks in and finds her sitting at the end of the bed with the blankets pulled through, her legs hanging through, and she starts screaming. He blamed it on a dream, but what do you think?